I'm Austin Lugo.
I'm Andrew Harp.
This is With Nothing to Say.
Let's talk about Black Caesar.
Before we get into this week's episode, next week we are going to be watching one of my favorite films of all time from one of my favorite directors of all time. That's the Orson Welles, The Touch of Evil, something I'm very excited about. I know, Andrew, the only Orson Welles film you've seen is Citizen Kane, so you're going to be in for quite the experience.
No, I've also seen F for Fake.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. We talked about it.
But those are the two that everyone has seen, though. I think I was thinking about this. Everybody has seen Citizen Kane and F for Fake.
I mean, they're both great, but definitely like on opposite ends of Welles' like career, right?
Right.
We watched Black Caesar this week, directed by Larry Cohen. Have you seen any of his stuff before?
Black Caesar. I've seen quite a few Larry Cohen movies. I suggested it because like one, like Criterion has this collection of blaxploitation movies on there. I hadn't seen a lot of blaxploitation, quote unquote blaxploitation movies. They're black crime. Blaxploitation movies are basically just like movies that star and are mostly made by black people in like the late 60s, early 70s. That's pretty much like what blaxploitation movies are. Yeah, and like they're crime movies and science fiction movies and comedy movies and horror and stuff like that. And the most popular ones are crime. So, but yeah, like Larry Cohen, directed, produced, and wrote this movie. He's a white guy from New York, and he rocks. He is, I think, he's underappreciated American auteur. He's cool. Like I watched a really good documentary about him. He died a few years ago, actually, and he's awesome. He started out kind of like how Spielberg did, where he started out writing and creating television shows, and I believe he worked his way up from the NBC Page program in like the 50s. Basically built up his reputation early on by like writing for and creating and producing movies, and I think not movies, television shows and episodes. And he was really good at it. And then he made a really good movie called Bone, which is kind of a blaxploitation movie. That's really good. It's like a very like confrontational movie about race and stuff like that. It's very good. And then after that, he kind of just goes nuts and he creates like a bunch of like all kinds of different movies. I mean, he makes, like some, blaxploitation movies, of course, a few, but mostly also like horror movies and like kind of science fiction-y kind of stuff and like thrillers too. He made a lot of like erotic thrillers. And I think he's probably most known as a writer than a director. But he's a great director and he has a particular, I want to say, guerrilla style of directing, but he's also written like a lot of other movies that he didn't direct as well. He also has a particular style in that way as well. So he's just really cool. Like I like him a lot, and he's like an insane guy. He's like crazy. He's very creative.
Yeah, I think this was my first Larry Cohen experience. I don't think I've seen anything written or directed by him that I can think of. I mean, definitely a great first film to watch of Larry Cohen. Like I'm definitely interested for because I know a lot of his stuff's pretty easy to find. So definitely something I'm gonna be looking into the next couple of weeks. Because wow,
He's so much fun. Yeah, his movies are really fun to watch. He has a really good movie called God Told Me To that he wrote and directed, which is a kind of like a detective movie about that takes place in New York City. And the idea is that like random people keep like doing mass murders, and when they're caught and asked why they did it, they say God told me to, and it keeps on happening like to different people. It's like, and this guy's trying to like figure out why, and it's just like an insane movie. It's so much fun. But I think like this was his big film hit. Black Caesar was like it was a big hit for him, and I think so. He made Bone, and then he made Black Caesar, and Black Caesar was like a really big hit for him, and I think it kind of set off all of his other stuff.
So Black Caesar starts off, you got this kid, 1950s New York City, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, yeah.
He's like 12, 13 years old, something in that range. He's shining some shoes, and immediately there is a murder. The man whose shoes he's shining gets shot.
Yeah, he's, of course, is our main character, Kid Mode. Kid. Yeah, he instigates the murder. So he's like paid by this guy to like shine and distract this guy's shoes and then also hold it. And then this guy is able to walk over and like shoot the guy. I love when he shoots the guy and he runs away, like boom, you get the title card with like the James Brown music. It's a perfect edit.
Yeah. Oh my god, the music in this is incredible. I mean, just through the whole thing is just every single number.
I was wrong. Like the theme at the beginning is not a James Brown song. It's like another like person like who sang it and put it together, and the rest of the score is James Brown. But yeah, it's really good. That's a common thing about these blaxploitation movies. They all have like really good soul and like funk soundtracks, and they will literally, and they're written for the movie, so like literally they'll like almost kind of like explain what is happening in the movie.
Yeah.
Like a Shaft, the beginning of Shaft has like a song, like the music's by Isaac Hayes, and it's amazing. And like the theme of Shaft is literally like Isaac Hayes being like yeah, Shaft's amazing, like like saying his name like in the song and stuff. It's really good.
That's incredible. But we get our first number.
The score is primarily made by James Brown, but I'm trying to see like who did like what the opening song is called. But it's a great song. It like kicks it off and it sets off everything really well.
It really does. I mean, obviously it's supposed to take in 1950s and but still great looking, just the way New York City looks in like the late 60s, early 70s, just really grimy and gross, and just everything looks awful. Our main character, who has just assisted in a murder, goes up to his like boss, or like the person who's like paid him off or whatever. He has to deliver an envelope basically, and he goes up to some apartment complex, and of course it's this like super racist,
Yeah, a comically evil white guy, which is I love.
comically evil, intensely racist 1950s cop, just the absolute worst. Basically he just beats the shit out of this like 12-year-old kid.
Yeah, he accuses of him stealing money out of the envelope. It's like, it's like his payoff money, his hush money. It's never explained if he actually did or not, but the cop accuses him of like stealing money from him. And yeah, he beats the hell out of him, and it's a very it's filmed very wildly, like the camera shaking and the edits are very quick, and it's a very effective scene in terms of like establishing early on the mindset of the character, where the character is coming from, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely some really great world building on the part of who these characters, who we will come to learn more about later on, and just kind of the way they see the world, and also just the style of Larry Cohen as a director, and just the insane editing pace, and the shaking and the running around. And even though this film is pretty violent, there's not a lot of scenes where like you directly see the violence. Like it's a lot of like close-ups and a lot of just like really thoughtful movement with the camera. So like it looks pretty intense, but there's not like a lot of actual like hits, at least in this opening part.
I think there are literally some parts where people get killed, but I think what happens is that they'll film in the streets, and so people will like an actor will pretend to be shot and he'll fall on something. And the thing about Larry Cohen's directing that's very evident is he steals footage all the time. He lives in New York City. He's from New York City, and he films in New York City. But it's clear for this movie and other movies that I've seen by him, he does not really get permits or anything like
Absolutely not.
No, so like he does crazy stunts. He gets crazy footage. You know that scene where he's I'm kind of skipping ahead, but that scene where he gets shot and he's like wandering in the streets and stuff, and people, the one that's kind of like a bird's eye view, that's just like a regular group of people. Like those aren't extras. So it's like this guy, awesome. Like it's Fred Williamson, like walking around the streets pretending to be shot, and everyone's like, dude, are you okay? Or like walking past him and stuff. When they're like on the ground, I think people are like, oh, okay, like, it's a movie, because like there's like a crew right there, like
there's a camera.
But when he's like up high, people can see the camera. It's great.
I mean, it's honestly guerrilla filmmaking at its finest. I mean, this is early American New Wave,
and ultimately too, like Larry Cohen is just a great writer. I mean, this movie in particular, it just has really good writing and really good story, like a really good, thoughtful like story. Like it's a very, it's not like just like a regular gangster movie. It's pretty deep. at a like on a mental level.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said about the writing and the story. And of course, we can't fail to mention that it's a pretty strict adaptation of the story of Caesar. So obviously, they changed some things and that sort of thing, but in many ways, as someone who has read far too many histories, especially in Julius Caesar, it's basically a modern day story of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar in a lot of ways.
Tommy Gibbs, by the way, is the name of our character, and it's before they transport you to the future. They introduce you to his friend. That scene in the hospital is so funny because it's like, oh, you're smart, because he's got like Poindexter glasses and stuff.
He's got glasses that makes him smart.
It's like, you're going to be like the brains of the operation, and I'll kind of be like the leader and the muscle of it, and we're going to fucking like do, you know what I mean? Like, he's determined to be like basically like a career criminal pretty much.
He's got aspirations.
Yeah, and he's like, we're going to make life better for everybody else. And then it's like years later, it's like the 70s now. No, 65. You get that great scene where he goes into the barber shop to and he like sits down, and there's a guy getting like shaved, and he's like toying with him. Tommy is, which is that's a good scene because he's so smooth and stuff. Even when he's like killing people, at least in the beginning parts of the movie, he's very smooth. He's very cool about it. He doesn't.
Such a cool man.
That's why he doesn't get caught, right? Like, because he's like cool about it.
Yeah, he's just so smooth and just so uncaring is perhaps not the right word, but someone who's just very willing to do what it takes to climb up the criminal ladder, as it were. And of course, you gotta love a scene where a man dies via shaving, because it's a classic. It really is. And the whole scene with like the barbers, like
he's nervous and he's like cutting him up a little bit. Yeah,
like he starts cutting him. He's like super nervous. His like hand shaking. There's like a guy getting his shoes polished, and Tommy's just there, just like he's got a gun, and he just shoots him.
He's like, I will kill you. Yeah. And he's goading him though. He's goading him to like attack him first. And then he does. And then he fucking just guns him down. And then everybody's like, okay.
And he just walks away.
He walks away, and that's it.
That's the movie.
Yep. That's the movie. And then you kind of like, you get like Tommy again. He visits, some mob Italian leader, some guy, family Godfather guy. He's like eating spaghetti and he's like, boom. And he drops like an ear on the plate. And he's like, hey, what the fuck? I was eating that.
That's some spaghetti.
It's like Tony Soprano, like, hey, I was eating that. And then they kind of have like a conversation. And of course, like all the white people in the movie are extremely racist, and they all like use the hard N word and
quite a few slurs.
And Tommy is like sitting down with them, and he's kind of laying out his like plan with them. He's like, I'll kill people for you. And, he's like, I'm good at it, for some reason, I'm just like very inconspicuous, I guess, which is, I don't know. He's just cool about it.
Well, I think like part of the thing when he's like talking about it is he's like, if a white guy goes and kills someone, like everyone's going to recognize his face. But like when a black guy does it, like they think like all black people look the same. And so like, I'll never get recognized. Like that's his whole plan. I mean, I guess it works.
Yeah. And I think he's like, I get like a certain block if I do this for you, like at a discount, I think.
Yeah. And the guy's like, that block is shit. Like, what would you do with that? He makes the best of it.
Yeah. And after that, you get like a nice little montage where he's kind of doing his Robin Hood shit, right? Like, yeah, this song is like amazing, and they're killing people, but like the neighborhood, all the black kids are like, yeah, Tommy, you're so awesome. We love you. You're sick.
It's like a local hero.
He's chilling in his suits. He's with his crew. His crew is really cool. This movie, I don't think does the best job at like showing the passage of time. They only have like so much time and resources for Black Caesar, so they can't really like do what a lot of movies nowadays do, where they might change like the color or the lighting, or they might do this, or they might do a little makeup or CGI. So in a movie like this that they make in literally probably a month, maybe a few weeks, they don't have time to like say like to bog down the movie with like effects like that show the passage of time. So it's fine. So I'm assuming that like he works his way up like within a matter of like a year. Maybe he's like working a year or two, working the streets, killing people, gaining trust of the Italian mob and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I love the montage and just some real bops to go along with it. But if I had any complaints with this movie, I do wish, and this is my complaint with a lot of these kind of movies. When I say these kind of movies, I'm referring to like movies in which like you climb up the social ladder or criminal ladder or whatever, any of those kind of movies. I always wish they spend more time like on the actual like of the actual climbing of the ladder, because and I understand that like you're limited by time, but honestly I wouldn't have mind another like 20 or 30 minutes where we got to kind of watch him move up the ranks. And I know like a lot of like resources and that sort of thing, but it would have been very enjoyable to kind of see that kind of like process of him moving up the ladder.
Yeah, but whenever I watch Black Caesar, I'm like, sometimes there's something weird about it. I kind of have to think like, I guess like they didn't have time to do that. They didn't have the resources to do that. But no, I see what you mean. And it's such a good movie too, and the characters are really good. Like if it was a little bit longer, it would have been. It's a nice tight 90 minutes. But if it was a little longer, I wouldn't have complained. It's the story's good. The characters are cool. Good montage, and then he's like hanging out with his lawyer, and he's with his buddy, the Joe, his smart friend, and he's with his friend who's also a pastor. I like that. I like that character. It's a little random. He's a little random of a character, but he's great just because he's kind of like I don't know. He's an unusual friend. I think he provides clout to Tommy, in the community as like a pastor guy.
And plus the tax benefits.
Oh, right. That's right. They talked about that. They talked about how like they're using like the church or whatever as kind of like laundering money.
They basically like it's a money laundering. Yeah.
But this is the meeting where they talk about the ledgers, which is pretty much like the MacGuffin of the whole movie.
Yep. They meet with a lawyer, the white lawyer guy. And they're like, look, these people have like kept track of everything for some reason. The lawyer's like, that's a terrible idea. Like, why would anyone do it? He's like, I don't know, but they did.
Yeah, and the ledgers are basically like from some crime syndicate or family that shows like who is being paid off and how much to for whatever criminal enterprises they have going on, I'm assuming. And he knows they exist. Tommy knows they exist, and he knows like when they're being looked at. And he's like, we should take them, we should take them, and then we should get control of everything, because we have leverage now, and that's what he does. He goes to like a club, and he meets his girlfriend there, Helen. She's singing. She's a singer and piano player.
She's had a long night. Everyone's shitty to her because it's the late 60s, early 70s, and she's a Black woman. And he's like, look, I gotta go do some shit. So I want you to just
listen, baby. I gotta
play a song. Yeah. Real smooth, real cool.
Listen, you play the piano, play something loud. Or, yeah.
And she's like, what do you want me to play? And he's like, doesn't matter. Just don't stop playing. Like just loud and don't stop. And you're like, oh, we know what's about to happen. And then he walks into the room where there's like an accountant and two of his like accountant buddies, and he just straight up murders them.
I know, he's awesome. He runs in just,
and his hat doesn't even get like anything on it. Like I love how pristine, because he's always wearing a suit, because he always looks so fresh.
Yeah, blaxploitation movies, their fits are always really good. Like the clothing and the fashion aspect is always like really amazing. It's really beautiful.
100%. And then the best part of it is like nothing ever gets on it. Like it's always clean. It's never got a crease on it. No blood. No nothing. Even the hat. It's just like perfect.
Well, they got to return the suit to wherever they rented it, so they can't really get it messy. Like the production has to take it back. So yeah, I don't think the budget allowed to buy a nice suit, but yeah, no, he's cool. He's cool as fuck. He's awesome. He's got swag. Yeah, and he steals the letters, and not the letters, the ledgers.
The ledgers.
And he like takes it to the lawyer and is like, "Yep, we got him. We got them motherfuckers." And then like the guy shows up, the cop.
Back from the beginning, the world's worst human being, arguably, like just the absolute worst, just so mean.
He like beats up kids.
The tables have turned, so to speak. Tommy has the ledgers. He's got all the cards, and basically, is what he tells the lawyer. He's like, "I want to fatten him up, and then just kill him, just like absolutely murder this man." And we're all like, "I'm signed up for it. I'm ready." I'm like, "Let's do this. Let's murder this cop."
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's fucking do it. And yeah, he like shows up and he's like an asshole and stuff. And I will say that like the cop guy, the evil cop character, he pretty much kind of like sums up kind of like the idea of the movie where he says that like you may be like high now, but like it's gonna crash eventually. Like you eventually are going to like fail or it's gonna be over for you. And he's right. Like he's just what like yeah, like even looking at it from kind of like a neutral perspective in which you're not like a hateful racist cop, like yeah, like it's gonna not last forever. And the next scene is like one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie where he buys the apartment.
Oh, yes, absolutely. he, he like goes to his lawyer's apartment because I don't remember why he tells the lawyer like he needs to go to the house or the apartment. And he's just like,
He's just like, I want to visit your family or something.
yeah, he's like, I want to like visit your wife or some shit like that. And then he walks in and he's just like, I'm gonna buy this. And he's like, no, it's not for sale.
I love it. It's got a nice view.
And he buys it with everything in it, clothes, jewelry. They just leave. They just have to walk out with what they have. He even takes her coat.
Yeah, she's like trying to walk out with the coat and she takes it. And then after they leave, he's like dumb. He's like instead of like selling it or giving it away, he doesn't give a shit because because he fucked over these white people. It's just like it's more like kind of like it feels good because he's just like he's throwing it away. He's like yeah, he's throwing it away. It's at this point in the movie, we are like yes, we love Tommy Gibbs. He's awesome.
Tommy's the best. We love him. He's really rocking it. And cut to next morning, we see a maid come to like deliver breakfast or something of that variety. And of course, from under the covers comes Tommy, and we learn that's his mom, and she is pissed.
Yeah, the mom stuff is like very funny and very interesting too. I think it's good because Tommy's just like, it's the apartment is yours. Like all you can do whatever you want. Like I have enough money that you don't have to be a maid. And she's like, I wouldn't even know what to do. It's sad.
It's the story of him and his mother is a very tragic story because all he wants to do, I mean, so much of this is about finding love with the people around him and providing for the community. And it seems every time he attempts, he just, for whatever reason, he fails. And then this is like the first like real failure we see with Tommy is like he gives her everything. He's like, you have the apartment, we'll get you a driver, like you never have to work another day in your life. And of course she thinks that he is just like high out of his mind and he hasn't bought the apartment or any of that stuff because it's clear that he hasn't seen her because he was in jail for a long time. And so this is like the first time they've seen each other. And so she thinks he's either high out of his mind, or if he isn't, if he actually did buy the place, like she doesn't want to be any part of it. And it's heartbreaking.
But he moves on. Tommy, you get that scene where he's like partying with his buddies. I like that scene. That scene doesn't like it's just showing him that he's got his like he gets he has a lot of friends or whatever. I like that scene when he's sitting next to the guy and he pulls a gun out of his jacket. And he like he's just like, what the fuck? Like he's just like, why'd you bring a gun to the party? He doesn't say anything. He just kind of like it's like there's like great, there's James Brown music playing and everyone's dancing and stuff, and he just pulls it out. It's like a funny little detail. Love it. Now, Tommy is like ready to basically take power. He's ready to backstab the king, pretty much. So like he goes to see his, Italian guy, his Italian guy, and they're buddies, like they're friends, they're like hey, at the restaurant. Tommy's boys show up and they kill all of his guys, and he's like, what the fuck? And it's basically a coup. They're cooing the Italian mafia family. This one, I guess.
Yeah, he has to go into retirement. He's not killing him, but basically he has to step down. And we didn't mention this before, but Tommy does this thing where he always buys people gifts, which I just love. Like he's constantly buying people gifts.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good detail. That's a good like that's just a nice little simple.
Yeah, it's so representative of Tommy as a person and how he sees the world. Like he genuinely thinks that he's making the world a better place, and he thinks by giving these gifts, he's buying people's love when, of course, pretty much every time he gives the gift, like they almost never, because he never gives them in good circumstances. Like it's never like, have a good day, here's a gift.
Yeah, he does that throughout the movie. And the other thing too is that he and Joe have like conversations like early on about like, help like kind of uplifting, their neighborhood or like, parts of the city, that are poor or impoverished and stuff like that. And as a movie progresses, that sort of like continues to fall in the background, but he's still like buying gifts for people and stuff.
And he gives this Italian mob guy the gifts, and Italian mom's like, I'm not gonna accept your gift, and you'll never, there's these other people that are in Los Angeles that you'll never get to, blah blah blah.
It's like his brothers live in California.
And of course, cut to California.
Yeah, actually, that house, that's Larry Cohen's house.
Is it really?
That's his own home in Beverly Hills.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah. And in Bone, the entire movie is filmed there. So the movie starts in the backyard and they go inside of it.
Good for Larry Cohen.
Yeah, he's got a nice house. I feel like he probably lived in that house his whole life. And yeah, like low budget filmmaking. We'll just shoot it at my house. And yeah, it's like the mob are having they're having a party. And yeah, just out of nowhere, they're attacked.
Just machine guns everywhere.
People falling in the pool. They film under the pool, like in the pool. Just food getting just like destroyed by bullets. It's a good shoot up.
Very one-sided shoot up. I mean, it's just they just massacre them. They had no chance at all.
They just massacre all the Italian people. Yeah, they just destroy them. Yeah, so there's no competition now. Well, there's no that family is gone. It's great.
And then we have our next confrontation with the cop because he's back, and the cop's like, you can't do this. And he's like, oh, I didn't do it. He gets himself like arrested for some like petty crime for the day. So he has like an alibi. So like he's not personally involved, classic criminal kind of shit. But the cop's just like, he can't do this, but he already did.
It's too late. Yeah. And yeah, once again, the cop does the same thing where he's just kind of like, look, you're not going to get away with it. You're not going to get away with this. Like, if we're going to get you, is essentially what they're saying. And Tommy is just he's totally chill. He doesn't give a shit.
He's too cool.
He's too cool. He's too suave. He's too swagged out. This is like kind of like at the turn of the movie where I think Tommy though kind of starts to lose his swag a little bit, in that I think he becomes like more desperate and more worried and anxious because he's super rich and powerful now. And so in the next scene, he basically he rapes his girlfriend. They're like in bed.
That's exactly what happens.
And she is just like, I don't want to have sex with you because you're a horrible murder monster. And he is just like, well, okay. And then he rapes her, and it's just like, oh shit. Okay. I didn't expect that.
No longer a Team Tommy.
No longer in Team Tommy anymore. I mean, this is it's halfway through the movie now. And yeah, the second half of the movie, like I said, is just kind of like a downward spiral at this point where, yeah, he hurts his girlfriend really bad. It's not like a horrible scene or anything like that, but it is a very it's a very difficult one because that actor, she really goes over the top. Yeah. And sort of being upset about the situation. We're upset about the situation. So, and then his dad shows up, which is also another just completely bone thrown in.
Yeah. I love that moment. The preacher's doing his classic preaching thing, going around the community preaching stuff. Tommy's dad just shows up out of nowhere, and he's like, hey, I want to see Tommy. And so they get in the car. The preacher's like, look, I don't know who you are. I don't care if you're Tommy's dad or not. Leave. Even though the priest or pastor, whatever he is clearly has some questionable morals, he definitely grasps that Tommy has kind of
he's off the deep end.
Yeah, he's off the deep end, and he's like, you need to fucking leave.
That scene too, they need a reason for Tommy to be distracted, right? So there's that small group of people that are like, Tommy. And it's clearly Larry was in New York City, and they're filming, and they're like, fuck, we need Tommy needs to be distracted. and like people are walking by, and Larry was probably just like, everybody, can you form a group real quick? Okay, I need you all for like just a couple seconds, just to like, it's clearly like not actors or extras. It's clearly just people that were just walking by on New York City that wanted to be in the movie. And they're like, okay, everybody chant Tom. Guerrilla filmmaking. It's beautiful.
Wonderful. Just a wonderful moment. And he has the combo with his dad. The dad decides not to leave.
Which is a mistake.
Yes, it's definitely a mistake. And he talks about, his childhood and growing up and, all of like the different people in his life that he's still friends with and blah, blah, blah. And his dad's like a salesman who travels the country or whatever, selling some shit. And they basically go to their old home, or at least where Tommy grew up with his mom.
It's like just like nothing. It's like a pile of sticks.
Yeah, it's basically just like this torn down or almost halfway torn down apartment complex, kind of similar as in the Candyman. It kind of looks like that.
Yeah, like
those apartments a little
with the
bit.
projects, like a fucked up projects.
And it does not go well for his dad. Although I guess,
Yeah,
considering it could have been worse.
yeah, it could have been worse. Yeah, he like freaks out, like he just completely freaks out. Tommy freaks out, and he like is just like, "I'm going to kill you, Dad," and you're just like, "Oh my God, he's gonna kill him!" No, and once again, it's just another signifier that Tommy has completely lost his mind, and that he thought about like killing his dad, and he decides not to, and he's just like, "Get out of here, I never want to see you again." And his friend, his preacher friend, is just like, "What are you gonna do next, kill your mom?" Yeah. Once again cementing that Tommy is just, he's not the same anymore. And then you have like that meeting where he's talking to Joe, right? And they're like at a singing, like Helen singing or whatever, and Joe's like, "Hey, when are we gonna build that community center?" And he's just like, "Bro," I don't even give a shit about that anymore. We need to hire thugs. We need to hire guys from like, like big guys from like Detroit for protection, because like they want to kill me. Like he's getting kind of like anxious and kind of like paranoid about like people wanting to like assassinate him, and all the like this shit about like, helping the community. It's fallen by the wayside now.
Yeah. It is the beginning of the end for old Tommy. It's clear that when he's like talking about the singer, like he no longer cares about the community, he no longer cares about caring for the community. He just cares about his own protection and just like making as much money as possible. Even like when he's talking about the singer, like he's talking about like all the ways that he can basically profit off of her existence.
And so he's like, "Yeah, you and Helen go to California for protection." And they're like, "Okay." You can kind of see what's going to happen. Anyway, the next scene, his mom's dead, which this scene is a little funny just because like it's sad, just because like his mom died, and he's with his preacher friend. They're like, "God damn, that sucks." Obviously very low budget, obviously stolen. They obviously were like, "We need to go to a cemetery and film. So we're just going to walk into the cemetery and film." Like they have like Fred Williamson and the preacher guy. They're like looking down at something like a headstone, but they never cut to a tombstone because obviously they never made one. Like, so it's just like footage of them kind of looking down, being like, "Man, that's like, my mama, she's dead." And they even have that song that's like, "My mama's dead." Yeah, it's clear that they were like, "We're gonna go to a cemetery. We're not gonna ask for any permission. We're just gonna film real fucking quick." But we don't have a tombstone, so just kind of like look at the ground, and we'll, you can just kind of like talk about your mom being, it's great.
And we'll play this great song.
Yeah, we'll play the great song about like, to signify the fact that yes, your mom is dead.
I love it. I just love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's very it's at least like a solution. It's a realistic solution to like not, getting a tombstone. It's be kind of expensive. And if you got like a cheap one, it would look like shit. So yeah, just look at the ground. We get it. Your mom died. You're in a cemetery. Like, what else would it be? And yeah, he sees his dad again, and that's awkward.
Yeah. He asks his dad, he's like, "What do you want? Like, do you want money? Do you want a place to stay?" And the dad's like, "No, like I don't want anything," which it's a very interesting relationship. And again, kind of parallels, right, his mother's relationship with him, which is like they just want their son to be loving and happy. And all Tommy knows how to do, especially at this point, is to give stuff. And like if giving, like that's the only way he knows how to give and receive love. And so when he can't give his father love, to Tommy, that's as if he can't feel love himself, like he can't express love to his father. And it's, again, sad.
Yeah, really sad. And the sex too, that's probably another, coping mechanism. He goes to his apartment and the white wife of the lawyer is there. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Get the fuck out of here. And she's just like, fine, but you should, find out what Joe is doing with your wife. And he's like, huh? Okay. And he like goes to the nice pad. I don't know if that's Larry Cohen's house or not. It doesn't look like his house. So it must be another house. Yeah, they go to a house in California and like, yeah, it's evident that they are like sleeping together, Joe and Helen. And he freaks out. He loses.
He sure does. He is pissed. I mean, he loses it. Throws his best friend down the stairs.
It's pretty convincing. I would say like the action in this scene is very convincing.
Yeah, it's a very intense and raw scene. Like it just feels, it doesn't feel in any way overly violent. Like it feels as if like these are two people.
No, it just feels like a real fight.
Yeah, it feels like a genuine, like two people who have kind of been in the game for a long time. It's not like throwing punches and like dodging punches stuff. It's just like throw him down the stairs, grab him by that shoulder, and just like, I mean, it's brutal. It really is.
And I like the dialogue too in this scene too, where Tommy is saying to Joe, like, Joe, you could have had it all. You could have had anyone. You could have had anything. And Joe's like, I didn't want to own like anyone. I didn't want like Joe's completely like on another. Which I guess like that would have been kind of nice to see more of Joe and more like maybe their relationship a little bit more. Once again, that would be nice to see developed. But given, like I said, the constraints of like a movie like this, I get it. Like I totally get it. Like, Joe is completely on a separate end of the spectrum than Tommy is. And Joe gets punished for that. And Tommy also gets punished too, because I mean, he kind of has ruined the relationship with his best friend and also with his wife. It's complex, I think.
It genuinely is. And this is I mean, if Tommy was on a downspin before, this is kind of the straw that breaks the camel's back. I mean, from this point onward, Tommy's just like absolutely broken. Like he basically can't function from this point as a criminal mastermind, and his existence.
Yeah, because right after this, the white guys, all the white guys that we've met, they're all like, all right, it's time to pinch out Tommy. Let's kill his friends. And they kill all of his friends. And they're like, well, how do we get to Tommy? Well, the only person he ever really loved was Helen, so we'll use her. So they go to Helen, and Helen has like 2 kids, and
they're in like this shitty apartment.
There's a shitty apartment, and she's like, and they're horribly threatening to her. I will say I like when they kill his friends. Oh, I don't like it, but there's that one scene where he's at a restaurant. that's like a joke where he's like, do you recommend anything? And he gets shot in the chest. He's like has a menu.
Shot him in the chest.
Like, do you recommend anything? Just shoots him in the chest. I don't know. It's like a fucking like I don't know. There's just kind of like a funny gag. Like, do you recommend anything? Just shot in the chest. Oh, that was so funny. All that shot footage is definitely like stolen too, of them walking around New York City and pretending to like, oh, I got shot, like falling over.
100%.
And like I said, there are a lot of other movies where they do that, where he'll film actors walking around the street acting weird or pretending to get shot. You will never ever be able to get away with something like that today in any city in the United States. Like walking around like pretending to be shot or fighting, or
they plan his demise. They meet with Helen, and they're like, look, you gotta
have sex with him.
You gotta have sex with them. Like that's what's gonna happen. So you can steal the deposit key, which he carries on at all times, which is where all the ledgers are. And she does it. She, for love of John and the many threats that these men give her, she has sex with them and does like the imprint thing, like where they put it on one of those, like, where you like make a copy of a key. She steals it.
And I think they're able to get the ledgers, and like the lawyer has the ledgers. And I think now that they have the ledgers, it's time to fucking kill Tommy, like, let's go, let's kill him. And yeah, this whole section of the movie is just crazy. It's a crazy section of the movie. It's just fucking off the wall. Where he's getting a gift for someone, for Helen, I think, and he walks out of Tiffany,
Yeah,
right?
again, buying a gift.
And in New York City, like daylight, in the middle of New York City, clearly they're filming, and he walks out with the gift, and they drive by and they shoot him. Tommy is just wandering around. We mentioned earlier with like a gunshot wound, pretending that he just got shot, and they're real people walking by. They're staring. Because they're real people. Like a movie's going on, they're like, "Whoa, that's cool." Or like I said, the bird's eye view where he's wandering around and people are like, "What the fuck? Are you okay?" He's getting shot, and but then you have like the taxi, like the quick taxi car chase scene, which is like once again another level of like shit.
Basically, he's not dead. He's still alive. He's still breathing. And he jumps in a taxi, and the like two killers or whatever, which by the way, it's like the same assassin has been like killing all these people.
It's like the weird kind of like he's like a funny looking guy. He's just like a funny looking regular guy. Yeah. Just yeah.
And so he jumps in a taxi, and there's basically this long chase scene through like New York traffic, which makes the chase scene all the better.
And on the sidewalk.
Yes, they just drive onto a sidewalk, which is just insane.
No, I mean like when I watched that documentary, that Cohen documentary, they interviewed his wife, and his wife like produced movies with him. Like she worked on movies with him, and she talks about like after they did that, she remembers like talking to Larry and being like, "Larry, that was so fucking stupid. Why would you do something like that? If something bad happened, like it's done. We're done. Like we're it's gonna be over. Obviously, no one got hurt, but yeah, she was like upset."
My God. I mean, yeah, for good reason.
It's crazy. They're on the New York City side.
People jumping out of the way. It's fucking insane.
Could never do that again. Ever. Never. If you drove on the sidewalk in New York City, even for like a second, let alone a whole block, you're going to get shot in the head, like by the police to stop you. I think that's probably what would happen. Yeah. This scene is just like the editing is crazy. It's just like all over the place. And, they jump on the car and like, they shoot the driver, and Tommy like rolls out and he's running around and, he's just, he's got blood on his shirt, and the other guy is trying to kill him, and he stops him. He's able to kill him, or yeah, he's able to kill him by just like strangling him in the middle of New York City.
Yeah, with like his own tie or something like that.
Yeah, they're like in New York City. He's just like,
and he just murders him. Now everything's out in the open. Tommy knows what's going on. They know that he's not dead. And it's time for the final meetup, the final fight back at the lawyer's office.
Final confrontation. He has that like one meeting with like his pastor friend, and his pastor friend is like on drugs or something, and he's acting really weird and being very unhelpful. And he's just like, okay, that seems
like told like as if like he bought into like his own religious, not like, like regular religious zealotness, but like, God will heal you, and like you don't need to go see a doctor or a hospital. Like, because Tommy's like I need to fucking, like, this needs to be fixed. Like, I need to get this fucking bullet out of my like ribs. And he's like, God will hear you, blah blah blah. It's like, this is not helpful at all.
Yeah, I don't think he gets any help. I think he just is just like whatever, and he leaves. And he's like, okay, I need to go to see the lawyer guy. And at the same time, Joe also decides to do that. He decides to go see the. Actually, no, what? Yeah, no, he calls Joe. He calls Joe. Yeah, he's like, I need help. Okay, let's meet at the thing, because he's not like Tommy. He's different. But of course, he gets punished anyway.
That poor man. Joe tries to do nothing but good the whole movie, and he gets on that elevator, and he's like going up to see. He's gonna figure things out, and of course, that stupid cop just murders him for not a whole lot of reason.
Sick cop, yeah, disgusting cop. Yeah, he just kind of goads him and shoots him in the head. He's just another guy, he shows up. Tommy does, and he sees that his lawyer got shot in the head too, of course. And then yeah, you get like the final fight where he's fighting with the cop, the evil cop guy. You get that incredible moment. It's just so fucking intense where like he's got a gun on Tommy, and he's just like, yeah, shine my shoes. He doesn't just want to like kill Tommy or ruin Tommy, like ruin his business. He wants to embarrass him. It's not enough to like shoot him. He wants to really like humiliate him, which is awful.
I mean, it's such a brutal moment. I mean, of like more than the violence and anything, that moment is just like so. Even though like at this point you don't, Tommy's not someone you're rooting for necessarily, but you're still like, oh, like it's such a heart wrenching moment. And part of me was like terrified that this is gonna be in the film. It was gonna be like this right here, and he's just gonna get shot, and that's gonna be it. And I'm like,
Nah, fuck that.
fuck that.
No way. That'd be so
That'd be
unsatisfying.
so
No,
unsatisfying.
Tommy says, fuck that. And he knocks the gun out of his hand and he beats him up.
Beats the shit
And
out of
that
him.
scene is awesome because it's like, you know, as he's beating it up, it's intercutting with the footage from the first fight of him getting beaten up as a kid. And that's what the movie is really all about, right? It's that cathartic, you know, that cathartic moment of him beating up the cop. But that moment, that scene, it's not like a satisfying scene. It's not a satisfying, like, because at the beginning of the movie, we're like, yeah, I can't wait for him to kill that cop. You know, he deserves it, and he does. But the final moment, as cathartic and as emotional, as intense as it is, it does feel really real. And because of that, it's not a very like extremely like satisfying and happy moment because of all the other things that happen in the movie, right? Like, because everybody got killed. He doesn't like have parents anymore, and he doesn't have a wife anymore. And he himself became a horrible monster. And so, like, yeah, like this cathartic moment, it's a catharsis, but it's like a really like the end of like this horrible cycle of just like racism and violence and crime and at the end of the day, it's like where it's supposed to end too, right? Because he says, you know, he says like it's gonna, you know, we know like it's not the successes and the extravagance of like his life of crime, you know, it's not gonna end well, and it doesn't, even though he is able to kill the cop. It feels a little empty because, you know, it's everything has just kind of been destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really interesting twist, so to speak, on that classic kind of cathartic feeling where at the beginning of the film, you set up your bad guy and your good guy. And of course, by the end, you're supposed to have like this cathartic moment where the good guy kills the bad guy or like he overcomes, you know, some evilness of the bad guy. But at this moment, because Tommy is such a complex character, because at this point, although Tommy is certainly better than the cop, not by a whole lot. And so this moment that's supposed to feel so cathartic as a viewer ends up, as you said, just with this emptiness and sadness because you want this moment to be cathartic, and yet when it happens, it's like, what's the point? Like it doesn't matter. And that's kind of in many ways the whole film in a nutshell, right? The whole idea that this violence, which begets just more violence, doesn't end up doing anything. Like, you know, we create this illusion that we're going to provide for the community, we're going to do all these things, but then, you know, through power and, you know, greed and all that shit, it just ends up cyclical and it just keeps doing the same thing over and over again. And, you know, by basically adapting your oppressors and just you just become the oppressor yourself, and it's empty, real empty moment.
And of course, like, you know, it's capped off even more when, you know, he leaves and he goes and he has the ledgers. You know, like who cares anymore? You know, who gives a shit anymore about the ledgers? And he like goes out once again. He goes out to like kind of like the old projects that are dilapidated, and for some reason, and it's very random. It's just like, what the fuck is happening? Because the audio is cut off with the voices. Somehow there are teenagers there, and he gets into like a fight with them. Like the teenagers pick a fight with him.
I think they just want to like steal his stuff.
Yeah, I think they just want to beat him up and steal his stuff. But it looks like it seems like they kill him. But yeah, they just want to beat him up. But he's like hurt really bad. I mean, he's like bleeding. It's kind of like the Caesar thing, right? Like at the end, he is ganged up on and he's stabbed.
He's ganged up and stabbed by his own community, right? It's his people that end up killing him.
I mean, that's what they were taught to do, right? Like, well, you know what I mean. I don't mean like, obviously it's a movie, so obviously I don't think that like black teenagers are running around like hitting people and stuff like that. Like obviously it's like very exaggerated, and I'm of course like I'm not generalizing like whole communities of people around the world with like a fucking, you know, movie like this. But like, yeah, it's like trying to say like, you know, he gets like killed by like a group that you wouldn't expect, you know, and he is like a very, you know, famous, and not a famous, I guess not a famous figure, but a very powerful figure. And he became powerful because he killed a lot of people, which is not a good thing to do. And yeah, and that moment is crazy too, because it's just like the ledgers at that point are just completely useless. They just become garbage. Like this whole thing that people keep killing each other for and fighting over, it's ultimately, completely pointless and useless.
Yeah, absolutely tragic. Again, going back to this idea of this cyclical nature, he grew up as a boy surrounded by violence and, in extreme poverty, and utilized crime to climb his way out of poverty. And that's exactly what the kids are doing that are beating him up. And of course, it's suggested that they've just basically restarted the cycle, right? These kids are going to climb up the criminal ladder. They're going to do the exact same thing. They're going to become super powerful. And then it's right. It's a snake eating its tail in a sense, where it's just this endless cycle of poverty being pushed in on itself, and this violence, which just creates more violence and more violence, and is such a tragic, although of course, in some sense, via the title of the film, expected, but nonetheless, just absolutely brutal ending. I mean, it could not have ended on a darker note, honestly. Yeah. All right, Andrew. Final thoughts?
Great movie. Love Larry Cohen. I think the black crime 70s movie is complemented very well with Larry Cohen's guerrilla style filmmaking. The match makes a lot of sense. And Cohen is obviously a very seasoned and a very good writer, where he's able to create a great, like, kind of gangster crime movie, but it's much more deeper than that at like a very, deep level. I think saying that the movie is deep is kind of weird, but I really do think that, like, it's a movie that feels very complex outside of just watching like a 70s crime movie that's like sexy and cool and stuff. It's a step above that, in my opinion. And I've seen some other quote unquote blaxploitation movies, and they have a lot of style and stuff, but some of them just, and this is probably the case for a lot of other different genres, of course, sometimes they're missing kind of like a complexity to it. Well, I think Black Caesar, very complex. I think also Fred Williamson is a really great actor in it. He like really is great in it, and I think all the actors are really good. Obviously, it's very like very low budget, but of course, because of the guerrilla style filmmaking, he doesn't need to buy a permit or buy a set. He can just go to New York City and drive on the sidewalks, and he doesn't have to buy a set or get a permit. He can just do it. Obviously can't do that now, but I guess if someone had to do it, it was Cohen. And ultimately just a really good 70s crime action movie. 8 out of 10 for sure.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with everything you're saying. This was my first blaxploitation film. This is my first Larry Cohen film, and it could not have been a better introduction to either, because it is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, as you were kind of saying, the story is truly elevated by these characters that are incredibly complex and well thought out, and they all have their own history and lives. And as we talked about, I would love to see more of Joe. I would love to see more of his climbing up the criminal ladder. I think that's a really interesting part of the story that's often missed. The music, of course, is just to die for. Everyone just looks so fresh. It's truly an incredible film, incredible experience. Like I said, my only real complaint is I just wish it was longer. I wish there was more of it. And I have so much respect for the guerrilla filmmaking and the low budget filmmaking. So I recognize that that just might not have been possible. I mean, you had to buy film back then, so every minute costs, a significant amount of money. But one experience, 8 out of 10, easily an 8 out of 10. All right, y'all. You can find everything we do, including this podcast, at With Nothing to Say Pod on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find anything I do at Austin Luca 12.
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter at HadyHarp24. I'm also on Letterboxd at Retro Andrew, RETR0 Andrew.
And thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much.